As I'm watching videos of Phantom Liberty gameplay, listening and reading on all the new updates, I can't deny there's still a little voice of doubt in the back of my head. A little voice saying, this is all too good to be true. If you were a fan following the development of Cyberpunk 2077 leading up to release, you understand what I say when I say, after this weekend, it feels like we're in 2019 again. Before the delays, before the messy launch, before the bugs, it was just an exciting time. Every time there was a new detail or interview given out, you'd be scouring for descriptions and explanations of what it all meant. There was maybe a little bit of infighting, sure, but generally it was just a great time of excitement and anticipation if you were a fan. Heck, I even have an old video talking about things to expect from the game. Right now it feels like we're back in that moment, but there's even more reason to be optimistic given what we and they, CDPR, have been through the messy development and launch of the base game already. And yet, I still have that little cynical voice. Just like in 2019, we're getting articles detailing systems and improvements that sound almost too good to be true. We're getting content creators, some who also happen to be characters in the game, praising CDPR and what they were able to play at demos. When I say it literally feels like we're traveling back to 2019-2020, I mean it. Go back and watch videos or read articles and they were mostly detailing similar things and reactions. So with that, I do say take everything you are hearing right now with a grain of salt, even from me. But I do want to take some time to try and put a cynical mind at rest, my own included. If you're like me and you still feel like what you're hearing seems too good to be true, maybe this will help you. If you saw my trailer analysis video, you'll know that I'm excited for this expansion. I want it to succeed and be the game we all thought it was going to be. So let's go over the number one reason I think CDPR can pull this off. Funny enough, it has nothing to do with my faith in CDPR at all. It's the modders. Since before and especially after the release of Red Mod, the modding community has shown us what can be achieved with this game. From flying cars to police system adjustments, combat improvements, oppose mode, graphical enhancements, even quest mods, modders have been at the forefront of keeping this game alive. And I think we see CDPR acknowledging some of that. I believe they hired an author of a mod to work for them, and we are seeing with the rumored changes to the police system that if they aren't taking notes from what's working in mods, they are at the very least listening to the community. Given how in tune with the community CDPR employees tend to be, I find it hard to believe that they haven't heard of some of the biggest mods or haven't even played with them in their personal time. All of that is to say, if modders can do it, I have to believe that a dev studio dedicated to reworking their game and its systems, as well as listening to user feedback, can do it too. Now, does that mean we will get everything that we want in this patch and expansion? No, not necessarily. And with the confirmation that there will be no new changes or romances, I think it's fair to say we won't get everything. We also have to keep in mind that there might be limitations in the console version versus PC that make certain things with the way they are just impossible to roll out across, blanket with all systems. But overall, I am still optimistic with this sentiment. The second reason why does have to do with CDPR and kind of just logic, really. In my video before Sunday's showcase, I talked about how I believe this was a hugely important weekend and by extension expansion for the company, not just in terms of ending Cyberpunk 2077 on a good note, but in riding the overall wave of positivity that they've had ever since Edgerunners. I mentioned how this feels like a rerun of 2019-2020 in the build-up to release. In that vein, if this expansion falls flat, if all these dev interviews turn out to have been misleading, if the content creators were again hyping up a product that they were not only involved in but ended up not delivering, it would be terrible for CDPR's reputation. And maybe it's slightly naive of me or a bit parasocial, but I like to think that they can't be that foolish to make that mistake again. Yes, the vibes and all the news is hitting the same notes, but I think that speaks more to the potential that Cyberpunk 2077 always had, and less to some sense of impending repetition and similar outcome. The lore Mike Pondsmith created, the world, everything about Cyberpunk, it was always exciting, And I think now they just finally have the potential to follow through on at least the closest version of the game they originally had in mind. It also can't be understated the experience gained from what happened in 2020. I think to some degree it was a humbling experience for them, and I'm not sure if the interviews are out there, but I'm sure if you ask them, they would say, yeah, we messed up and it wasn't ready. Now, they don't have the reputation of, say, an EA who will just push broken game after broken game with really no remorse. I genuinely think, or at least I want to believe, that CDPR care about the product they are making. They care about their image. And that care combined with the experience won't let them repeat all the same mistakes. Because frankly, if they did, that would just be insane. If this all turns out to just be a rerun of what happened before, that would be madness. In that same vein, that brings me to my third and final reason I have faith that this won't just be a rerun of the past. And that's the fact that they are dropping support for last gen with this expansion. I know to some that's a controversial decision. It was when Square Enix did the same for Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC, but anyone who is being honest with themselves knows that this is the right decision. I was one of those unfortunate souls first playing on my Xbox One X and dealing with crashes that felt like at times every 15 minutes. It's why I partially can't give CDPR a pass on the state they launched the game in. However, concerning the expansion, it is 100% the right decision. Now, we'll never know just how much development time trying to get the game to run on last gen actually took, and I'm sure there's a whole thread of it somewhere discussing and debating what was right and wrong. All I'm here to say is, I don't think it was an insignificant factor. Now that they don't have to worry about that, I think they can not only focus on making sure the expansion and patch are as polished as possible, but with the better hardware, they can push the limits and perhaps even enable things that they weren't able to previously. Now, like I said, I could be wrong. Again, take everything you're hearing and reading with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I do think it's safe to let yourself get hyped and excited for this expansion because it does look great and it sounds great from everything we're hearing. So what do you guys think? How are you feeling with all the news coming in? Make sure you subscribe and like for all Cyberpunk content. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.